had an earthquake today.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it. I was disappointed. I didn't feel it where I was. I was outside.
The shows are earth-shattering. Earth-shattering night at Lock's Gallery.
One of the things that I feel Sarah and Donna both do is take all of us as viewers into the intimacy of the art-making process. The studio, the canvas itself, even the stretchers. And I wanted, but you do it in completely different ways. And the first question we wanted to pose was about this intimacy with the work of art and with the process of making art, and ask you to each talk about how you think about that and how that's a part of your practice.
I mean, it's pretty obvious my work is autobiographical, and so it is about my life, and so it's intimate in that way, but it's, it's very carefully edited and sort of embellished or fantasized, so it's not like a documentary. I like the phrase creative nonfiction. And I like to have big open areas and then these little scrunched, intimate, detailed areas, and the ability to move through the painting with those different experiences.
So the Red Studio, is it a Red Studio, or is the Red Studio a piece of the history of art that you are digesting?
You mean Matisse's studio?
Well, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I grew up in New York suburbs, and I went to MoMA as a child on through high school, and of course my whole life, and I always looked at that painting. Yeah. So that painting's, it's in my DNA.
It's in your DNA.
Red is my favorite color.
Donna, your studio is like a laboratory. You're inside, outside. You are trying new things.
Well, I recently retired from teaching and taught a School of Art and Architecture, and somebody asked me, so what are you going to do now that you're retired? You gonna you gonna travel? I'm like, no. No, I'm going to paint. I don't use the word intimacy. To me, that's like the world. That's like, my little, activities, in my backyard with my trees around, to me is like connecting to the universe. So I don't think I'd call it, intimacy. It's like a huge, huge thing to me. And I think that, one of the best things about being a painter is, yes, you can just stay home.
So then let me follow up and say, if not intimacy, you bring us to the backs of your paintings.
Yeah.
And the backs of your paintings are paintings, and your paintings become sculptures.
Yeah.
Where does that come from in your soul in terms of bringing people to understand the object of art in 3 dimensions?
Well, for abstract painting, if you double the surface that you're working on, so you're working on the back, and you have, and then that's affecting the front, it completely changes, just working on the painting hanging on the wall. But my whole life, I've seldom worked on an easel or on the wall. I mean, I've been actually working on the floor for probably since I'm 28, so I'm, I come of the generation of Jackson Pollock, and my students were like, Donna, we don't think Jackson Pollock is that big anymore. But, the abstract expressionists very much formed me, and then working on both sides is my very small way of extending that tradition, because you have more actual canvas surface to affect. You've got double, so your color, it's really interesting, becomes a really interesting play between the front and the back, and it makes the canvas itself very important. And of course that starts with Helen Frankenthaler. But canvas is a lot different now, as all the painters know, than it was back in the 60s. now canvas is made all over the world. And so if you just order it on the internet, you don't know what you're going to get in that, cardboard box. And that's really exciting for me because every box is a different piece of canvas and it takes the paint differently. And so I actually am not making the paintings, thank God. The canvas itself makes the painting. The canvas and the gravity, and I'm just there doing my thing, with the paint.
I think that for those of you who haven't been upstairs yet to experience what Donna's talking about and what Bill referenced, your body is is implicated. Donna's work is 100% in an embodied experience. It's not an image, it's not a photograph. And you really need to move around the space. And I think that's a wonderful thing that you invite us to do as viewers, is to find all these nuances of painting, to see all these little details, because you make us walk around and you make us stay there a few more minutes than we might in our routines of going from image to image to image.
It's a painting, not a photograph.
It is. And I was telling Sarah earlier that I think one might be tempted to read Sarah's works and read them like a narrative and then think you've finished, like you've read them, like you figured, oh, this is a story, I've seen the story. And I think coming in this room and being with these paintings and thinking about how they're made and seeing the surfaces and seeing how colors match and bleed is also common to what we're talking about. And so I love having these exhibitions, experiencing these exhibitions together, because it absolutely reminds us to be embodied in front of painting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about as Donna was talking about the materials?
Yeah. Well, my paintings are on panels because I never like the bounce of canvas. I like a nice hard surface to work on. And, I have my abstract expressionist moments, like when I'm doing my studio floors. I'm like flinging the paint and I'm not, they go over and over and then get covered and then more splashing and then sometimes painting a splash, but most of the time it's actually making a splash. So I get my moments of abstraction and expression.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of collage in my paintings, which I guess you would say.
There is?
Yeah. So, like, this view into the kitchen and living room, I painted that bigger, acrylic on paper. Then I take a snapshot with my phone, and I put it in the computer and shrink it to the right size and print it out on this really good, like, rice paper, digital rice paper. And then I collage it on there. They're all acrylic with acrylic medium. It's pretty seamless because it retains my hand, but I get the scrunched down detail, which I really like.
Wow.
So it's a combination of painting from observation, painting from imagination, the collage. And
well, look, when you do a structure like the painting rack up there, now how that's not collage,
No.
So that you drew that, did you have a ruler?
Oh yeah, I usually I usually map out the room first. And I think like,
space.
I want to get that wall and I want to make sure I get that, the dog in the crate. So how am I going to do that? How do I figure that out?
That is that's amazing. It really is. I mean, the fact that there's every wire, that you painted every wire of the crate.
Yeah.
Everything is equal. There's nothing in your painting that's not important.
Yeah.
That's super, super interesting. They are pretty boomalay color-wise.
They're pretty what?
Boomalay.
Boomalay.
That means they're boom.
Oh, I like that. That's a good word.
I mean, they're strong.
Yeah.
Like a lot of realist painting is just about the realism.
Yeah.
Yours is very visual, but it's the combination of this very very beautiful and successful areas of color with all of this detail is very unusual.
Thanks.
What you were just picking out of Sarah's process is something that is a slower kind of painting. And you have talked in the past about how fast can I want this, I want big paintings, I need to, you're making a lot of moves and you want a lot of energy. Could you talk about fast and slow?
Well, it's like I don't really make my paintings. I mix up colors, and then and then I choose the piece of canvas, and then the gravity, makes the painting. And sometimes I leave them out to be rained on a bit, but it kind of cures them.
Perhaps a new place to go outside of the paintings and into the world. Talk about your art making and your process in terms of how it participates in the life of our society and our planet.
I kind of feel like my work is a relief and a break from everything that's going on in the horribleness in the world.
Uh-huh.
Well, I would feel it was beyond what I can see. I don't actually know the social purpose of painting, but exactly, I don't. But I have been teaching long enough to see that when painting is outlawed in favor of social practice and people that put down painting as, irrelevant to, to the world and to what's going on in the world, something great is lost. And the truth of the matter is, there is tons of painters in the world. Everybody paints. Kids paint, old people paint, everybody paints, So these kinds of statements about this is not important, this is not relevant, are not true. They are not true. I can't really explain why, but I think that painting is a very, very profound kind of thing. And, the relevant things come and go. But what's so interesting is you can look at paintings that are hundreds of years old. Like I look at Sarah's paintings, I think of Suzetta. You can look at paintings that are hundreds of years old and be right there. With this kind of, that's where the intimacy is what a painting really is. Words allude in a very indefinite way compared to what painting is very specific and connects to reality in a very different way than words. Saying art has to be this way or that way based on all of these words, I just don't think that to me the earth is there and the sky is there and my body is here, and that's what painting connects to, is this silent experience.
You give us examples of living a life and how you're going to live a life and how you're going to break rules, how you're going to make new rules that are very applicable to how we might make decisions in the rest of our lives. So I think both of these shows, have lessons in them that are not protest signs per se, but they are in some ways instructions or offerings about how one lives. We look at your life. We look at the life of a studio. We look at not being satisfied with the previous painting and making a new one, and staying in a place of always moving, always wanting, always pushing. Those are great examples for all parts of our lives, I would say.
So here's a question, and it's inspired by Sarah's description of collage and painting together, and it's about time, about folding or nesting different moments of time in the same work of art. So how do you think about time in a single image, both Donna and Sarah? And are there other ways that you indicate the passing of time in both of your work? Interesting question.
I'll let you answer.
Okay. Well, I I'm big on color. I'm not big on shadows. So when I talk about time or time of day, color is what sets that up, what describes it. And then Sacetta, you mentioned Sacetta, and those paintings, where you see the story of a saint moving through.
Yeah.
And that's what got me going on doing these ones where you see multiple, like that one over there, where I'm in there 3 times, different times of day. And also my hair is 3 different lengths in there. So it's just like, because paintings take a long time. For me, they take I work on many at the same time. So,
So with 3 different haircuts.
Yeah, exactly. 3 different haircuts. So, I like to describe time with color and then with sort of also the narrative,
Yeah, this is one of the most interesting things to me about the form of painting. Paintings, that form keeps producing itself. It does not finish. It keeps producing itself. And, to me, like my favorite paintings, like I can almost return to them infinitely. And that's like especially in life, because that's the difference between a photograph of a painting and where you just see the image, you see the colors. But when you see paintings in life, for some reason, they keep producing themselves. And I think that's like super, super interesting. And it's one of the foundational aspects of my own development, because, to me, the paintings, they declare, we're done, Donna. The canvas cannot take another drop. But the painting, the painting is never, in my case, I feel the painting is never finished. And actually, that's been a very important thing that painting has taught me. It's painting. It's making paintings has taught me that about the form of painting.
I have a question that builds on that asks you to comment on sculpture. And are the works cross-medium? Are they sculpture and painting? And, because and And I'll just add to that, when you go up in the show, look for the wide variety of materials that are employed and don't not see the steel bases and the wood bases, and there's a lot of interesting material choices up there. How are they sculptures? How are they paintings?
Well, it's like I don't really make that, also I'm from the 70s generation, and when they took the base off of sculpture, and then you start to, it's like that thing of the body, as long as you're alive, the painting never finishes.
I'd love to ask you, Sarah, building on what Donna said a few moments ago, that the painting is done when the canvas won't take another drop. How do you, Sarah, know when a painting is done?
Well, I mean, similar to what Donna said, the painting tells me, I think many painters have, the same feeling. And they sit around, I like them to sit around for a while in the studio, where I might just spend a lot of time looking at them, and I might make one small change or add something, but the paintings know.
Speaks to you
done.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes my paintings take years, It's like I get it to a certain place, and I put it in the corner, and then one day, I'll just start working on it again. And definitely some of the paintings take years. And that's why, I don't like the idea of having a lot of deadlines or anything like that.